Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here. For nerds, by nerds, hanging out with some of the colleagues.
It's Ryan.
I'm Ted.
I downgraded them today. They're not esteemed anymore.
No, we lost esteem.
So, we want to do a video response to Tabletop Terrors. They did a video on... Oh crap, I don't even remember the name of the video.
Encounter elements.
It's a trap.
It's their encounter elements series, and basically things that you can put in your game right now. And it's about traps. I'm gonna actually put the link in the description below, or maybe even in one of the icons up here somewhere.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, it's a really great video. Definitely worth your time.
Yeah, and they also have a product they put out that's attached to it. So I'm a little jealous, to be honest with you, that I never came up with this idea because it's so friggin' awesome. And basically, you know, they come up with 3 key points. And the first one, and the one that kind of blew me away, was just taking monster abilities and using them as traps.
Yeah,
I might have done this like without like thinking about it. Like you know, over the editions, you see the really cool abilities, and I think I've done I'd like to have this option as a trap, but not reading it and say, I want this as a trap. You read the ability, and later you say, okay, well, I'd like to have a trap that does such and such.
Make a thing that replicates.
Without really, pointing.
So let's face it. I mean, any kind of cone attack, cloud attack, line attack, it's in your monster manual. It's listed under a monster. You know,
and it gives you a CR for it.
It gives you a CR for it. You know, the DC is there. If there's a hit, it's there. Like all the key information is there. You know, all you do is cherry pick and go like, what am I looking for this trap to do? And it's in there. They use the example of a half a CR monster, the Cockatrice, and its ability to petrify.
Right.
And I'm like, that's an amazing idea. Ted, you really like the other example.
I like the vine blight, and you could use it as vines, but they suggested reskinning it as like animated magic chains kind of situation, and I'm like, that's awesome. I love something like that. It does bludgeoning damage, and it goes for a grapple. Having that in a dungeon, especially if it's like a jail cell or something like that, that's fantastic.
So as written, it works pretty well for like, say, something organic like rope, the hemp rope. But I do think that's one of those things where, like, when you go to the chain, you're talking about a difference in the hardness of it. So like
what they're saying is it's a trap. It's not something where you're trying to defeat. You're not fighting the animated chains. It's a trap to get out of or disable.
Right, but when you're talking about like break DC's chain, so I mean everything's a little more ad hoc in 5th edition, which is nice. So I would just think that we'd maybe make a little bit of a judgment call on the fly. Like if a player suggests something that it wouldn't have been the thing that you would have thought of, like maybe they have acid that works particularly well on metal, and you have to abdicate. But
I would say even if you wanted to use it straight out of the book, it could just be an inferior metal, composite.
Well, it doesn't matter because straight out of the book, it's a monster attack, so it probably doesn't have X amount of hit points to cut through it or something like that. So you'd have to ad hoc that no matter the material,
right?
And you could just come up with an arbitrary number in your head anyway.
Right.
42.
42.
Yeah.
Now I like the Cockatrice trap because me and Ted were talking about this. And
because petrifying PCs is awesome.
Well, think about a floor. A floor that's like that where they have to fight something that doesn't touch the floor.
If every single time you touch the floor, you got to make this, even if it's a relatively low DC, eventually you're going to drop those low numbers. It's like,
Yeah, so you might lose a round.
Yeah, you could, that room too, part of like the trap, there could be all these things that look almost like chess pieces, like stone chess pieces that were the people that have been petrified inside of this room.
Oh yeah,
so you're jumping you're trying to like literally jump to the next step.
And here's the thing, if you do that, the players would be like, oh, maybe I have
it's like a chess puzzle.
Yeah, it's a puzzle. I have to move like chess pieces. But it doesn't actually matter at all what you do.
That would be fantastic.
But also too, like the giveaway.
Layers, man, layers.
Well, the giveaway you could have pieces be in places that the chess pieces shouldn't be able to be moved to.
Right.
Like for whatever. Like it's just the arrangement that.
Oh no, everyone moves into their 5-foot square. They never move in between. It's against the rules.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
So the next thing they touch on is using traps as hazards.
Circumstantial stuff. Something that would normally, be there and have some kind of effect. Like if somebody dug a hole it's not designed to be a trap, but if you fall in it, it's a pit trap. You know,
it does the same
It's
thing.
like a tree falling in the forest and making a sound. Yeah.
You know, they talked about, you know, what if you had, you know, the dangerous terrain or hazardous terrain of trees that had poisonous thorns. You run into them, well, they're a trap, but it's not by design. It's by nature's design.
It's by the Minotaur that bull rushes you into them.
Yeah, well, basically, you know, instead of having to come up with the mechanics for something, like it's already there, they're just saying use it. They use the example of boulders rolling down a hill or a mountain. Well, there's a boulder trap. Just use that. You know, the reason why I love this video that they did so much, because it harkens back to what we talk about all the time, is getting more work done with doing less. You know, it's not no reinventing the wheel, no recreating stuff, using what's there, reskinning it, repurposing it.
You're filing off the serial numbers. You're stealing it, filing off the serial numbers, repackaging, spray painting it, and then you're good to go.
Like, essentially, we do a series called Fast and Dirty Monsters, and that's basically what they did with traps in this. And
they took other effects that are already out there and said, oh, now they're traps.
Yeah, it's fast, it's easy. You don't have to think about it.
And
you
your
can do it
players
on the fly.
Your players will be none the wiser. Like, they're not gonna know that's where you pull this thing. Like,
Until they watch this video.
Yeah, they watch this video or their video. Like, they'll never know.
Say you're a DM and you're running stuff, and you've gotten stuck because your players have gone off the rails. They're doing their own thing, and you want to use a trap, but you don't know what to use. You could just open up your monster manual.
Right here's your perfect example of the beholder.
And like, I just opened up to a random page, right? And you know, I'm sure I can find Sleeping Gaze, right?
Yeah. From the Jackalware.
From the Jackalware. So you can do some kind of sleep trap, and I can just go right here and say, okay, this is how it works, and I don't even have to think about it.
Right here on the front of your cover, you know, one of your iconic D&D monsters, the Beholder, a slew of magical abilities, turn them into a trap, done and done.
So, you know, they're just good examples. And the third thing they did for game masters to put into their game right away is, you know, this one is kind of a give me, but still it's useful information if people don't think about it, is changing up, you know, the modifier that you attack with your traps. Don't always do it a dex based.
Correct. I think, you know, they used an example of like trying to get through a door that's guarded by like an animated statue, where it's like, all right, the charisma character is talking to the statue, so it's a charisma check there. You know, even if you're using skills or just straight up charisma, the strength character is trying to actually physically open the door, you know, using strength. And they had a third one in there.
Yeah,
as well.
I think it was something like the strength character had to pry away something in order for the rogue character to actually get at the mechanism. Yeah. But, you know, it was basically making it so the trap took a combined effort, or, you know, or either that, or having it so that the trap could actually be bypassed by someone that isn't the rogue, because either you don't have one or it requires a different skill set.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the door isn't like adamantine or whatever, like, you can force open a door. You can kick. I mean, SWAT teams do it all the time. You know, so like a really strong 20 strength character, you know, like with a battering ram could damn well like burst through a door. The hardest DCs in the game are DC 30, and most doors are going to be a far cry from a DC 30 to like force
hopefully.
open.
Yeah, I
well, that's adamantine. Yeah,
I love the you know, the aspect of using different stats. You know, to always rely on dex is you know, it's sad because you know, what happens if you're playing, you know, without that rogue, or you're playing, you know, and, you know, the rogue's off doing something else, or he's just been incapacitated by the last encounter.
It's not even that. It's just more interesting, too.
Yeah.
You know, like the Porter Cliffs, instead of, you know, having, you know, the rogue find the mechanism, you know, maybe you could have the fighter lift it, which is very thematic and kind of cool. And, you know, there could be battle raging on, or maybe you're trying to get away, or
it's like Fezzik from Princess Bride.
Yeah, or maybe the walls are closing in, or something going on.
How cool would it be to have to, you know, have you know, the fighter occupying the trap while everyone else has to actually fight the encounter? You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
so-
yeah.
Well, I mean, like it's so it's
changes
not
the dynamic.
It's not going to be the
Absolutely.
most exciting fight for that particular character, but it makes it more interesting for everybody else. And for one fight out of the multitude of sessions you
Right.
could possibly have,
You know,
it's no big deal.
If he's got to like, all right, well, I've got to get this open before the bar comes down and locks it completely into place. It's like, all right, well, you know, I've got to get it lifted up so that you guys can get through, and then I'll slip under. You know, I like those kind of timed situations.
Well, and also too, like when you're talking about these sort of multi-tiered, sort of multifaceted solutions to a given problem, it's a skill challenge. It's a 5th edition skill challenge when you're talking
Yeah, you
about
could-
like
yeah.
multiple things. I mean, the whole successes versus failures just seemed a little too arbitrary for me. Like it does need that 5th edition ad hocness to it or whatever. Like just go off of degrees of success or like like I don't know. Like I like having consequences to failure, but the scriptedness of the skill challenges from 4th edition was just a little too gamey.
Yeah, they needed a little work. It's an interesting concept, and in essence, they created this
Theoretically, but like when you have
skill-based battle.
like the thing where it like takes 9 successful checks to do it, like was just like
I always thought it was 3.
they're the upper like levels
They're varied.
of
Yeah, we
them.
didn't get to that.
Yeah,
high.
like the having it was like
It kind of feels like a roll.
it was just like
Right.
this actually isn't fun, so we should not do this. So yeah, like and that's the things of all things. If it's not fun, then don't do it. Yeah, like with the hazards, like the terrain hazards are only fun if there's a battle raging on or if there's like some sort of stakes going on. But like literally, I'm just gonna make checks to climb or whatever like that. There's actually no fun.
Yeah, I mean,
doing
unless you're being chased and there's timing going on where, like, it matters how fast you get up, or, or like you said, there's a battle raging. Yeah, like, and DMs always want to do this kind of stuff anyway, and it's like, it doesn't really further the story.
like a lot of the Indiana Jones sort of like the dynamic of multiple traps going off. Like a lot of it just like I guess unless you can really color it up with the descriptions or whatever, it's just like that a lot of that stuff just generally doesn't feel that fun, where it's like, oh, a trap and another trap and another trap. So like you need some other element there, I think, to make it a little more exciting.
You need what you really need is ways for your PCs to interact with those traps and with what's going on. Matter of fact, like I picked up their trap PDF, and I looked, and they had like all kinds of stuff in there, like where the like a tiered. I just got it, so I only had a chance to glance at it. Where they had this tiered DC system, where like it was really low, like a really low DC to like spot runes or sigils on the floor, and then it escalated from there. So like that kind of a system, I think, would actually make it far more interesting if there's, it's multifaceted. There's different ways for the characters to interact with the trap, before it actually just goes off.
Yeah. Well, and also too, like if the bulk of the encounters happening are going to be like trap encounters, you almost want to know quite a bit about what these traps are to be able to describe the mechanisms, because if you're just like, oh, it's a this or this trap, but you don't know have any sort of understanding to describe how the mechanisms work, then you don't really have any description of how they stop the trap from going off.
Oddly enough, in 5th edition, the DMG actually covers a lot of information per trap.
Yeah. They don't give a ton of traps, but what they do is kind of dense.
They're fleshed out really good. They actually give ways of disarming or bypassing the trap.
See, I actually love the fact that they have a like a damage by level, DC by level. How much you want to stretch it out. Is this a easy for them to survive, or is this a deadly for your damage? I think that.
Well, you could actually take the traps that are already there and fleshed out, and just replace the mechanics, the crunch, with that by level,
Right.
to taste however you want it, however hard you want those traps to be. And whether you might want a trap that some traps that are walkthroughs and they're easier, or you might want them even harder.
Right, and then you explain it like, oh, the pit trap, they're barbed. That's why they deal so much more damage.
Aggravated damage.
Yeah, aggravated damage. That's right. And if you pull them off, you're just taking the damage again.
Yeah. And your pinky.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So I would say if you haven't gone and watched their video, definitely check it out. If you have anything else that you want to share on this, go ahead and put it in the comments below. While you're doing that, feel free to click like, share, even subscribe.
You can patronize us in a way that we like over on Patreon. please.
Hang out with us over on the Facebooks.
So
Well,
until next time.
Stay nerdy. It kind of blew me away was just taking monster abilities and using them as traps.
Yeah, just
I
pulling
might
it.
have done this like without like thinking about it. Like you know, over the editions you see the really cool abilities, and I think I've done the I'd like to have this option as a trap, but not reading it and say I want this as a trap. You read the ability and later you say, okay, well, I'd like to have a trap that does such and
Make
such.
a thing that replicates.
without really pointing.
So let's face it. I mean, any kind of cone attack, cloud attack, an amazing idea. Ted, you really like the other example.
I
they
like the vine blight, and you could use it as vines, but they suggested reskinning it as like animated magic chains kind of situation, and I'm like, that's awesome. I love something like that. It does bludgeoning damage and it goes for a grapple. Having that in a dungeon, especially if it's like a jail cell or something like that, that's fantastic.
So as written, it works pretty well for like say something organic like rope, the hemp rope. But
it's their counter element series, and basically things that you can put in your game right now. And it's about traps. I'm gonna actually put the link in the description below, or maybe even in one of the icons up here somewhere.
If you haven't watched it, it's a really great video. Definitely worth your time.
Yeah, and they also have a product they put out that's attached to it. So I'm a little jealous, to be honest with you, that I never came up with this idea because it's so friggin' awesome. And basically, they come up with 3 key points, and the first one and the one that they. Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here. For nerds, by nerds, hanging out with some of the colleagues.
it's Ryan.
I'm Ted.
I downgraded them today. They're not esteemed anymore.
No, we lost the steam.
So, we want to do a video response to Tabletop Terrors. They did a video on. Oh crap! I don't even remember the name of the video.
Counter elements.
It's a trap.
It's like line attack. It's in your monster manual. It's listed under a monster.
And it gives you a CR for it.
It gives you a CR for it. The DC is there. If there's a hit, it's there. Like all the key information is there. All you do is cherry pick and go like, what am I looking for this trap to do? And it's in there. They use the example of a half a CR monster, the cockatrice, and its ability to petrify.
Right.
And I'm like, that's